Pama florebit, sicut cetrus Libani, multiplicabitur in domo Domini Alle nunciam misericordiam tuam in veritatem Justus Pama florebit, sicut cetrus Libani, multiplicabitur in domo Domini Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia,
Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
Speak, Lord, your Son is listening. You have the message of eternal life.
Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
Reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, I say to you that here, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. To him who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also, and from him who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your coat as well. Give to everyone who begs from you, and of him who takes away your goods, do not ask them again. And as you wish that men would do to you, do so to them. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies and do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return. And your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the selfish. Be merciful, even as your Father is merciful. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
We have here in St Luke echoes of what we have in extenso in St Matthew in the Sermon on the Mount, the Gospel paradox. We are called not to be just average, but heroic in going that extra mile. And then we're warned about certain things which are actually daily sins. Judge not, condemn not, forgive. And then this question of the way we handle others, the measure we give. Is it not true that interesting conversation is interesting usually in the measure in which it is bad news, colporting gossip? Calumny, of course, is another degree in which the actual content is not only unnecessary in its transmission, but actually false. The saints went all the way, and their goodness, which was born from grace, outworking itself in their humanity, drew others. An example would be precisely the saint of this day here in Ireland, St Ciaran, who went to a solitary place by the streams of water, Clonmacnoise, and drew as a magnet other pious souls. In these places, Eden was retrieved. He had a cow, and they seemed to get on very well. The cow was an amazing creature altogether, for by supernatural power it always had enough milk, even though there were 1,000 brethren at one time. But he also had a fly. When he was copying and interrupted in his copying of a manuscript, he would ask the fly to stay put on the point where his thumb or finger was until he came back from the interruption, and the fly would obey. This we find in the lives of the Desert Fathers, harmony in nature. But if it's the case between the soul and animals and nature itself, what should it be between souls who are bonded by that same call and that same grace? A monastery should be a factory of love. One should feel only warmth as one enters in. It applies also to the Christian home, what St John Paul II called the domestic church. A child will grow according to what he hears and feels. We need to protect the growing child, lest it hear what it need not hear, and feel what it need not feel. One day I was talking here to Bishop Smith, who was a young bishop in those days when Pope John Paul II came, and he was responsible for much of the organising, and they had to have a quick whip round because they couldn't keep the Pope waiting until the other bishops arrived from where they had to arrive because of another event with him. And so they had this extra bit thrown in, take the Pope to Clonmacnoise. And it was the most moving part of the pilgrimage of the Holy Father. He actually wept of emotion when he got to the area because he felt in Clonmacnoise the depth of Irish history and sanctity. There must have been a sensitivity in the Holy Father's soul. He obviously loved this land of saints and scholars, and he pleaded for peace. Actually, the furthest he got north was nearby here, Drogheda, because he couldn't go to the English part, the part under the Queen, because of the tension there and the danger to his person. And so he went as far as possible northwards in the Republic and stopped here. The papal cross is still there, just outside Drogheda. He drew massive crowds. The faith was still very strong in 1979, and people still talk of it. But Ireland is full of these sacred places. Here in Dunique itself, we have what has been left to us by St Ciaran, who lived slightly before Ciaran. If one looks from an aerial view, one can see quite clearly that the road goes round what have been in the monastery enclosure, so the limit would have been front gate here. Therefore we are reclaiming lands of prayer and grace, gratuitously, places which were owned by heaven on earth. But we can take with us the simplicity of these saints. Their life, although hard and severe, was not complicated. They did well one thing at a time, and to make it simpler, they avoided the unnecessary. And the big unnecessary, as we're warned actually in the Gospel today, is unuseful talk. That applies also to unuseful communication, because if we're talking on machines, we're still talking. The cloister is a place where we are available unto Him. The world is not always that. But these saints had the advantage of being open to the will of God and ready for every good work, which made of Ireland a place where the monastic cloister actually had its effect everywhere, a capillary effect, a very monastic church. The collect of this day says it all. Lord and Shepherd of your people, who led St Ciaran to green pastures beside peaceful waters, and prepared the place of his resurrection at Clonmacnoise, grant by his prayers that we may know the shortness of life, so that we may gain wisdom of heart. Questa festa ci colloca nel tempo primitivo dell'evangelizzazione, della cristianizzazione totale di questa isola verde, basato sulla vita monastica spesso, perché i monasteri facevano di città cristiane, facevano tutto per il popolo e dunque la vita era ritmata dalla preghiera. Non era complicata, era semplice ma austera, e questa va ritrovata, questa semplicità in cui, seguendo anche il consiglio del Signore nel Vangelo di oggi, si evita la complicazione di parole inutili. Perché oggigiorno, quando si parla a tutti, con tutti i machine possibili e queste invenzioni moderne, siamo molto lontani dalla vita semplice dei monaci primitivi. E purtroppo anche questo subentra nella vita monastica stessa, con i gadget moderni. Quindi bisogna essere attenti, perché come dice la colletta di oggi, la saggezza è di sapere contare la brevità della vita. Ubi caritas in amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi est, ubi caritas in amor, ubi caritas
Deus ibi est, ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi est.
Master, who has gone before, this ancient pathway follow you, the the silent feet of many more. Thou still dost guide us, thou still dost guide us. And when the tears of many years, the secrets kept from mortal ears, are known again without tears, thou still not listening, thou still not listening. For thou dost know this solitude, that held in beatitude, beheld and held in quietude, and still dost ponder, and still dost ponder. For thou didst call and calling heard, the distant echo of this word, call on and call till nothing stirred, in dying wonder, in dying wonder. Yet would at times as something move, where now thou art, where ancient love burn still and whisper from above, faint not we call